Again, we're so happy to have you here. Today, this morning, you'll notice that Sam isn't here. He's actually away on retreat. On a retreat, let me rephrase that. And we'd like to welcome today Pastor John Visitacion. He's visiting us from Sequoia Hospital down in Redwood City. He's a chaplain there, and he has so graciously offered to come and speak and share his message with us. So let's give him a warm welcome.
Thank you very much for letting me be here. Yes, my name is John Visitacion. I'm a chaplain over at Sequoia Hospital. I've served on a number of churches. I've served in Los Altos. I've served at Wesley United Methodist in San Jose. I did youth ministries down in Southern California. Born and raised in Fresno, for anybody from the Central Valley. Yeah, I'll take that as a no. My wife and I, we've been married for four years now, and we have a 2-year-old son. His name's Koki. Yeah. I'm very grateful to be here with you all today, and just wanted to lift up a word of thanks to you all. I realize we have folks who might be watching online, so I just want to say thank you very much for putting up with me for the next about 20 minutes or so. Yeah. That said, let's go into a moment of prayer. Loving God, please use the message that I've prepared this day for your kingdom and for your glory. Friends, I'm going to invite you all to do this with me. Take one deep breath in and breathe out. Let's do one more breath. And breathe out. One last final breath. And breathe out. Now, one of the churches that I've been helping out at is a small church called Aldersgate United Methodist in Palo Alto. The first time I showed up at that church, I noticed that is how they do their opening moment, their centering moment. Sometimes people will lift up a prayer to God to center themselves for worship. Sometimes they'll do a reading from Psalm. But this was one of the first churches I've ever heard that started their worship service with the act of breathing. Now the second church is actually here. Sue did that this morning, and so I'm actually grateful to hear that here at this church. I ran into a theological professor last year from Chapman University. His name was Dr. Carmichael Peters, and he said breathing is a form of praying. In fact, it's one of the most mature forms of praying. It stems from our spiritual fathers who fled to the deserts of Africa, and they created what's called a practice of interior silence or continual prayer. And the goal was to just focus on your breathing, to clear your mind of any of the worries you have in the future, any of the things that you're holding on to from the past, and just be in this present moment and recognize God for just being God here in this place. Again, breathe in with me. Breathe out. Dr. Peters even shared a quote that stuck with me. I wanted to share it with you all this morning. The past is just a present memory, and the future is just a present word. How moving is that? Probably one of the things that holds us from being right here in this present moment. And so I started doing that as my own practice. And I put it in your worship bulletin for you all to do the same. It's a 3-breath prayer. And the first breath goes like this. God, help me to let go of the past. God, help me to let go of the future. God, help me to just be here in this present space with you. Amen. It's easy, right? It's easy and simple. I do it before every worship service, before every time I'm in a visit with a patient or meeting with a family member. But our desert fathers would do this practice day and night for very long periods. And so Dr. Peters asked us to practice this for 5 minutes. And this is how the 5 minutes went. Keep in mind, again, it was about a year ago from today. He asked us to close our eyes and focus on God, and instantly I thought of, man, I'm hungry. Oh, lunch was good. I hope that they're serving the same thing again for dinner tonight. I wonder what my wife and son are doing right now. Yeah, they're probably shopping that Nordstrom rack. It's red tag sale right now, yeah. I wish I could be with them right now, but that smell of lunch is getting to me, and wait, what am I doing right now? Oh, I'm praying. Oh, yes. Yeah, praying. In 5 minutes, we're done. Yeah, that was it. That was it. How many of you have tried to do contemplative prayer or a form of meditation before? How easy is it? It's hard. It's really hard. It's not easy just to practice breathing. To meditate into nothing but just the presence of God. Why it takes practice. It's why the Apostle Paul encouraged the churches in Ephesus to hold strong in their faith practices and teachings. Paul writes in Ephesians 3, Christ will make his home in your hearts as you trust in him. Your roots will grow down into God's love and keep you strong. And may you have the power to understand, as all God's people should, how wide, how long, how high, and how deep his love is. May you experience the love of Christ, though it is too great to understand fully. Then you will be made complete with all the fullness of life and power that comes from God. Paul's letter to the Ephesians was for the sake of the unity of the church. And at a time when the church's population was growing with both Jewish and non-Jewish backgrounds. And so at the beginning of chapter 3, before he shares this, Paul's writing about the Jews and Gentiles who believed in the good news will share the kingdom equally. That it's available to everyone. And what Paul is sharing in the passage for today is actually a prayer. A prayer given by Paul to the people to be filled with that inner strength through his Spirit. Now, I know this message might be a little bit too easy to understand. That God's love is limitless. I'm pretty sure we can all agree that God's love is limitless. But how much do we actually know of the limitless love of God? Paul said it beautifully that God's love can't be measured by depth or height or width or length. But Paul's also telling them that he can barely imagine what that means to be present in a limitless, infinite amount of love. So the practice has to do with realizing that when you realize the infinite possibilities, you begin to realize God's love is everywhere. Present with us here in the sanctuary, with everyone here in this room, present with us when we leave and go back to our homes, present with us when we were kids, when we went to school, when we graduated, went off to college, got our very first job, got married, had kids. A retirement party, perhaps? Present with us wherever we go and whatever we do. The practice of focusing and breathing in and out brings us back to the fundamental prayer of our spiritual desert fathers and what Paul's prayer of knowing God is present with us before, during, and after. We remember who God is to us, and as we take a breath for life, we remember that God gives us life. Take a breath in with me. And breathe out. So let me add one more dimension to this. Pastor and theologian Rob Bell mentioned that the name for God in Hebrew, YHVH, was actually vowels in the Hebrew language. Yod-He-Vah-He. Ancient rabbis believed that they were breathing sounds, that the name for God was unpronounceable. And then Pastor Rob lifts up the question, is the name of God the sound of breathing? For me, that question is so profound over something so involuntary and mundane as taking a breath. It makes it so sacred, and it's worth it value. That if we could just pause and recognize our breathing, we could recognize God in our breathing. One more time, take one more deep breath in, and breathe out. Friends, the message is simple. And yet it takes practice, and it's something we need to practice to hear what God is actually trying to say to us. Now, we expect God to answer our requests when we lift them up to God in prayer. But in reality, in understanding how great God is, God has been pouring life into us and pouring love into us before we were even created. That God's been speaking to us way before we were even thought of by our parents and grandparents. That God's presence enters in us with every single moment. And it gives us life both physically and spiritually. Each breath we take is a gift. That we breathe in the presence of the Holy Spirit each and every moment of our lives. God gives us life with every breath. It's a simple blessing that can be taken for granted if we don't stop, let go of our past. Stop worrying about the future. Just focus in on the present moment with God. For every single memory you have, for all the ups and downs in life, God has been present and still is present with us, surrounding us with love. But to know this blessing, we too must recognize our own breath. Both inhaling and exhaling. So think of it like this. We cannot breathe in God's presence into our lives each and every day. We can't just breathe in and say God is with us always. When we breathe in, we too must breathe out. And that means we are too breathing out God's love into the world. To recognize the depth and length and width and height of God's love is to see that we are a part of God's love in this world and part of extending it to to the world. We play a role in God's presence and are representatives of recognizing God's grace amidst us. Brothers and sisters, be bold in knowing God's presence surrounds us here in this space. Take deep breaths of God's love and use it in your own words and actions into the broken parts of this world who are having a hard time hearing God's presence. Bring more sacredness to God's creation. That is our blessing and my encouragement to you all as followers of Christ through the joy that Paul lifts up for our own journeys of faith. So with that, please, will you pray with me? Loving God, we thank you merely for the simple fact that you are here with us. That you are a God who tries to be in contact with us and tries to be in a relationship with us. So help us to stop and breathe, to reflect on your presence, on the things you've created around us, the things you've created in us, all through your love. Help us to realize that the past is just a present memory and that the future is just a present life. So that we can come to this realization, being courageous of sharing your love to those around us. Be with us and continue to give us life with every breath we take. Through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.